everybody, and welcome to our session here. I'm very happy to be able to welcome ESLLibrary.com. We have Tammy and Lay with us today. In a normal environment, we would all have a clapping session. If you would like, you can turn on your cameras and you can clap and welcome our speakers for today. I know I'm welcoming you.
Thank you.
I'll go ahead and hand it over to Tammy and Lay now.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin. All right. So hi, my name is Tammy. I am the outreach manager for ESL Library. I also have a background in teaching ESL. I worked primarily with community college students and adults as well, but I have some experience with teacher training for elementary school students. And Lay has experience with teaching elementary school. So between the two of us, we can answer a lot of questions related to ESL Library or about teaching in general, of course. So it's nice to have everyone here. I'm going to go ahead and just do sort of an introduction to how you can teach online with ESL Library, and just share my screen and kind of do an overview of the site. Lay is going to be hanging out in the chat, and so she can answer any of the questions that you guys have over there. And if she can't answer them, I can answer them at the end, or we'll be at the exhibitor hour right after this. So you're welcome to join us there as well. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen here. And so hopefully you can see this. By the way, I pulled this up so I wouldn't forget. Maybe Lay can put the link there in the chat, but if we're offering a 6-month plus plan subscription, we're raffling off a 6-month plus plan subscription. So if you'd like to enter that, you can go to ESLLibrary.com/giveaways. And this is just a sort of a thank you to everyone for coming to WATESL. And so, thanks for investing some of your time in professional development. I know that's such a precious resource. So it's ESLLibrary.com/giveaways with an S. Go ahead and enter there. And everyone who does not win the 6-month subscription will be offered a 1-month full access to our site as well. So you can kind of try it out and see if it's adding value to you and your classrooms. All right, so I just wanted to not forget about that. Let me go ahead and start showing the site. All right, I'm gonna hide our pictures over there. Okay, so here I am. ESL Library is a subscription site. I want to just mention that right off the top. A lot of times we have schools or programs or even districts who will buy subscriptions for all of their teachers. And so if a teacher has a subscription, then their students can join for free. So that's keeps it simple for you. And of course we have the bulk of our customer base is actually just individual teachers who have bought subscriptions for themselves. So it's sort of like Netflix for teachers in a way. Once you buy access to the site, then there's 2 levels. If the main difference between the standard and plus plan is that the plus plan allows you to assign interactive homework tasks, but even if you're on the standard plan, you can assign like reading tasks to your students and things like that. So I'll kind of go ahead and show you what some of the categories look like, what some of these resources look like here, and how you can create classes, invite your students to your classes, assign homework, and then of course a little bit of some of our resources. All right, so I want to start by actually teaching you a little trick. If you're teaching online, if you're on a PC, you can go ahead and hold down the control button and press plus. And if you press plus again, you're going to zoom in a little bit more. So each time you press plus, you're going to zoom in. And to reverse that, you hold down control and press minus, 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 and you'll zoom out. And up here in the top right of my screen, depending on what browser you're on, you'll see like I'm at 110% or whatever. So you'll see me zooming in and out. If you're on a Mac, you're going to hold down that command button and press plus, 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 or minus, 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 and that'll zoom you out that way. All right, so that's just kind of helpful. Of course, if your students are on like a cell phone or something, they might have smaller screen space. I'm not quite sure what that will do if you're trying that right now within Zoom, because you're within a webinar platform, it's a little different. But as the teacher, you can use that for PDFs or whatever you want. All right, so here we are. I'm logged into ESL Library. I can tell that I'm in my account because I can see my name here in the top right-hand corner. And on the main page, there are just a whole bunch of different categories. We have like 12, I think we're at 1,300 lessons on the site now, from total beginner all the way to advanced, and for children to adults. So pretty much any level student you have, we have material for them. And so there's plenty of ways to filter and look for content for your students. I always feel like the biggest challenge of the site is just figuring out which categories are best for your students. So if you do have questions about that, always feel free to write in to us at hello@esllibrary.com, and we can help guide you there, but I'll give you a few tricks here as well. So here I am on the main page. We can see all of these different categories. And for example, you know, we've got these kind of genres, mini debates and discussions, grammar, young learners and adult literacy. If you're working with like elementary school or lower literacy, you definitely want to check out these different categories here. Everyday English. Anyway, you can browse through these. But for example, if I look at this living in English category right here, I'm going to zoom in a bunch so you can see this more easily. So this category is for low intermediate to high intermediate students. We have about 15 lessons within this category. I can see this little audio icon, which means that there is an audio component to at least one of the lessons within this category. And same thing with this little computer icon, that means that at least one lesson within this category has been converted to digital. So that's important. We have PDFs for pretty much all the lessons on the site, printable PDFs, or, you know, PDFs you can pull up to use digitally, but also many of these lessons, I'd say about 75% of the lessons on the site have been converted to digital to more interactive tasks. And I'll show you, let's actually hop in and I can show you what those look like, comparing the two. All right, if I am filtering, so all of the materials that I'm looking for are under this drop-down menu here. I can find our 1,300 lessons right here, and that'll take you just to this main page. We have about 3,000 flashcards on the site. So kind of like a picture dictionary, basically. Everything you can think of is going to be a flashcard you can also create custom flashcard sets and things like that. So instead of like Googling for images and then putting them into Word docs or you know, making your own Google PowerPoint or whatever, we have like a pretty cool digital flashcard player or just printable flashcards you can make. And then resources, we have about, I think, 300 resources, which are things like warm-up ideas. Let me just click in real quick to show what a resource is. So there's things like warm-ups and fillers, there's sentence stems, there's some assessment tools here. We have language scenes, which I'm a big fan of. I'll just click into that as an example. So a language scene is something like, let's click into At the Beach. Why not? And here we have a PDF viewer, so you can see a printable version. We have the interactive tool right here. And then you can assign these as homework as well. So I'm going to click into the PDF viewer just to show you. A resource is not a lesson plan. It's arguably one of the least interesting things on our site. I'm going to hide that sidebar there. But if I use my Control++ trick that we just learned here, I can zoom in and basically I just have like this very detailed image here. And so I can use this for maybe a 5 to 20 minute activity with my students, maybe elicit vocabulary and ask, hey, what's this? Or maybe we're doing present progressive tense. I might say, hey, what is he doing? I could have my students write something based on this image, sentences, paragraphs, whatever. It's just a very open-ended resource, and that's what this is. Some of them have like questions built around them, but if we click into, let's pop out of here real quick and go into the real world reading, you can see, for example, something that's been built up a little more closer to a lesson plan, but still is not. So this one on ATM receipts, for example, I'll just click into the PDF again, hide our sidebar with our little hamburger menu over there. And so here it actually has like a vocab preview. But what we really care about in terms of a resource here is this image right here of the ATM receipt. So of course you would never bring in your own ATM receipt to class, and you certainly wouldn't ask your students to do that either. So you have a bit of, I guess it's real, yeah, it's not actually real, but pretty close. And then some questions right here. And there's multiple examples throughout this resource of different ATM receipts. All right, so let's back out of there. Let's look at an actual lesson plan and how you might find lesson plans. Because 1,300 lessons, it can get really overwhelming and you want to be able to filter those. So we have a couple drop-down menus. Here you can filter the lessons by level. You can set it to the Canadian language benchmark, the CEFR is what I have mine set to right now, or just these kind of descriptive words like pre-beginner, intermediate, high intermediate, things like that. We also have a equivalency scale down at the very bottom of the site right here, where you can see how those levels align to things like the TOEFL test, IELTS, TOEIC, and things like that. So other ways you might want to filter is if you're looking for material, if you go to our calendar page right here, you can actually see what's happening this month, or let's say I'm preparing for my Valentine's lesson in February, for example. I can go over, click over to, next February, and I can see what's happening. And I'm looking for Valentine's Day, so I can click here on Valentine's Day, and it'll bring up all the lessons that we have that are tagged related to that topic, as well as different resources. So we have like a love idioms poster, for example, some little podcasts, and then we have flashcard sets and even a collection, which is, I'll show you in a second what a collection is. So some of these, like Valentine's Day, there's multiple lessons at multiple levels. Often it will just be 1 or 2 lessons, like Thomas Edison's birthday, like, oh, that's cool. That's something that happened in history. I might want to bring that up for some reason in my class. And so I can click on that. And then there's just 1 lesson here, and it looks like it's part of the innovation and technology lessons collection. So that might inspire a lesson idea. So depending on, who's in my class, what makes sense, maybe National Pizza Day is what we want to talk about. So just another way to generate ideas for you, or to find lessons that might be relevant for your students. And then lastly, on the right here is the collections. And our head writer, Tara, our head of publishing, she has put together these different collections. So these are lessons from different levels, but on the same theme. So here, for example, we have a Halloween set, we have a numbers set, basically, social justice, COVID, all kinds of different things in here, so worth exploring as well. All right, let's actually look at a lesson here. I'm going to go ahead and just hop into our discussion starter category. This is for sort of low, intermediate to advanced level students. It's one of our largest categories. We have 123 lessons in here. And discussion starter, as the name suggests, it is focused around trying to generate really interesting conversation with our students about a specific topic. So we always have new and featured lessons right here at the top. You can always filter, again, if I'm looking for intermediate lessons specifically, I can filter there still. And then we just have all these different kind of categories. So we have environmental topics like vanishing honeybees, food waste, climate change. We have technology topics here, educational topics like homeschooling, ebooks, digital learning, obviously quite relevant. Business topics, I'm a big fan of this gender inequality lesson, for example. Community, so you can see some of these lessons on the site are lighter weight. So like staycations, for example, is quite a lightweight topic, whereas militarized police is a much heavier topic. So there's a pretty wide range on here. I'm not going to go through all of these. I'm just going to hop into a lesson that I'm already pretty familiar with. I'm going to go into this universal basic income lesson right here. And by the way, as I've been scrolling through here, you may have noticed, if you have eagle eyes, that oops, quite zoomed in there. Some of these have like a little heart next to them. And the reason that that heart is there is because as I have previously browsed through, kind of window shopped for lessons, I've just clicked that little heart icon, and it's gone into this class prep menu up here into the My Likes kind of bucket. So all those lessons that I'm like, oh, this might be interesting for my students, this one too, they're all just going into that My Likes bucket area. Oops, clicked into one of them. Let's get out of there. And if I also wanted to, from this My Likes folder, I could then organize those lesson plans. So I might say, oh, let me put this into my beginning level folder, my intermediate, my advanced, just to start kind of organizing my material. Or I could certainly do that from here as well. Next to the heart, there's a little folder icon. You can click on that, and maybe I want this universal basic income lesson in my business English class for some reason, and then I can click save, and then it'll be in there. All right, so let's click into the lesson. I mentioned there's a printable PDF player, digital task player, and you can assign homework. So the PDF viewer is, of course, if you're in class, or if you wanted to print out something and send it to your student as packets, or of course, if you are just more comfortable looking at a PDF and sharing that on your screen, you can do that as well. So for example, right here, I'm just sharing my screen over Zoom. And so if you were teaching online with Zoom, you could certainly share it as well. In our PDFs, we do have American spelling, Canadian, and we're just now adding British spelling. So you may see that option as well showing up. There's also a teacher version of the PDF and a student version of the PDF. They are completely identical to one another. The only difference is the student PDF does not have an answer key at the very end. And then we also have the audio component right here. So if you were wanting to share online, you could click on this audio option here and click play and listen to either the American/Canadian version or the UK version, if that is available yet. You can also download those as well. So let's hide that sidebar. So anyway, let me just show you sort of what the PDF looks like, and then we'll compare that to the digital interactive type. So here it just starts with some warm-up questions, a bit of vocab preview. We have our reading on our discussion starter topic, comprehension questions, a little vocab review to make sure we understood. This one happens to have a grammar topic. Not all of them do, but it related to our content quite well. And then here we have kind of the meat of this, which is our discussion questions. So if I'm teaching over something like Zoom, I might have my students get into breakout rooms and discuss these topics. I might choose to share these discussion topics ahead of time and tell my students to think about it, or maybe these are a follow-up homework question. This is just, of course, if I'm sharing a printable PDF over the screen with my students, which is an option that some teachers prefer, but I'll show you the interactive version after. So an example of the discussion question is, how might guaranteed income programs help improve gender inequality? So, you know, that's quite a heavy question, and hopefully my students have learned something, including vocabulary, from this lesson. And then there's a couple projects. Often the PDFs will have kind of project-based activities that we don't have digital versions of yet. And so that's always another reason, even if you're using the digital task player, you might want to take a peek at the PDF, just as a sort of pro tip there for using ESL Library, because sometimes there's some cool activities that your students could do with a selfie video challenge right now. That would be a great task, but we don't have that in the digital version. So just as sort of a tip for you. And then the last activity on here is this classic gap fill activity or close activity. So they listen to something and fill in that and our answer key at the end. Okay, let's go to some, see how this looks when it's more interactive. So if I'm teaching over something, teaching live face-to-face with my students over something like Zoom or Google Meet, or if I am in my physical classroom and I have a screen behind me with the projector or something, I can connect my laptop and use this in class as well. So let's take a peek at that. And I'm going to go ahead. Some of these tasks are called reference tasks. So we have all these different tasks here on the left-hand side, and the type of task they are will vary from lesson to lesson and the level of lesson and things like that. But basically what I would do is I would go into Zoom, I would click to share my screen, and I'm logged in under my teacher account right now. So I'm going to share my screen with my students and elicit those responses from them, just like you would do if you're standing in front of the class. So a reference task is going to be more receptive. Basically, the student is not having to do anything. So if I click into this warm-up task, for example, we just have a couple questions here. They're the same warm-up questions that were on the PDF. They've just been cleaned up to look a little nicer if they're displayed digitally. But you can see there's nowhere to like type the answers. So if I was teaching live over Zoom, I would probably just have a discussion with my students over the microphone or have them get into different groups. And depending on my students' literacy level, I could have, for example, one student be, like if they're in breakout rooms, I could have one student be the leader of that breakout room and they pull up on their own computer in their own ESL Library account, they can pull this up. Let's say I'd assigned it as homework and I could have them lead a discussion. So that would be if they're a little bit higher level. If they're lower level, I might just lead the discussion myself with a full class and have them, you know, comment their responses over a microphone, or obviously you wouldn't use this specific lesson for a lower level, but they could type their response into the chat in Zoom or whatever. So different ways to elicit responses, but basically you just click I'm finished. And if this had been assigned as homework, you would just click the student would just click I'm finished. There's nothing again for them to type. But let's look at something a little more interactive, like this Vocab Preview A. So I'm going to click into here. Again, I'm sharing my screen with the students. I could, of course, assign any of these tasks as homework. And as I mentioned, depending on my students' digital literacy level or their English literacy, I could call on a student and ask them to share their screen with the class and then have them do the task themselves. But I'm going to just kind of show this in the simplest way possible, which is the teacher eliciting responses. So the teacher is sharing their screen and asking their students for responses. So the way that I could do this, for example, is I might just ask my students, let's say we're checking background knowledge. So does anyone happen to, let's look at this first definition here, to test or conduct a trial. Does anyone know which word matches this definition? And so my students might shout it out over their microphone. They could type it into the chat. But let's say that I go ahead to test and conduct a trial. Let's say we've decided it's pilot. I can go ahead and click that there and see later how we did as a class. Another option is just to call on a student, an individual student. Hey, Kaylee, let's look at this one right here, universal basic income. Which definition here matches universal basic income? And she might see the word income right here and also the word income in number 3 and guess that. And so I'd go ahead and click for her. And I'm just going to go ahead and randomly click in the rest of these and see how we do as a class. And I'm zoomed in quite a bit, so there's a little bit of scrolling I'm doing here that your students wouldn't have to do if they're on their own screens. Oh, okay, not bad for guessing. So we got 4 out of 6 correct as a class, and I could review my answers or I could try again. Now, if I click to try again, that's going to reset all of the answers as if I hadn't done anything at all. Or I can click to review my answers and I'll show what was correct, what was incorrect, and what the correct answer should have been. All right, let's take a peek at just one more of these task types and then we'll look at something, maybe I'll show you how you can assign the homework. Let's go take a peek at this listen and type. All right, so the listen and type, this is basically that close activity or that classic gap fill. It has an audio component and that audio component is down here at the bottom when you're doing this sort of task player method. So I'm seeing a gap right here in the first sentence. If I was teaching this live, what I would probably do is I would click play and let it play through this first sentence and then click pause again. And then I would ask my students, okay guys, what did you hear? Type that into the chat or just shout it out and then I would type it in. And I'm not gonna make you guys listen to it. I'll just type in that answer there since I've done this a couple of times and put in some random answers and then just leave a bunch of blanks as well. So I'm gonna click submit. And because I left some blanks, it's saying, hey, you missed some answers. Do you want to submit anyway? And yes, I do. All right, so of course, we got just 1 out of 10 correct. I could try again, which again, that will delete all of the answers. And basically, we have to start over from scratch. Or I can click to fix the answers, which is going to show me which answers were correct. Or give me a chance to modify these here. And I'm sure that's not correct either. And I'm going to go ahead and click submit. All right, and so yes, I still want to submit that. All right, and we got 1 out of 10 correct still. So I can review my answers just like the other one. It shows what's correct, what's incorrect, what the correct answer should be. But what I really like about these task types that have the audio is that when we're reviewing the answer, I have the audio here as well. So I can click play. And let's say I notice that we have some errors down here at the very end of the paragraph or at the end of the reading. I can actually just sort of scrub forward and play and listen just to this part. So, if I'm teaching live, that's quite helpful. But also if this had been assigned as homework to the students, they have the opportunity to re-listen and recheck their listening accuracy as they need to. All right. Now, I've been talking a bit about how you might teach this if you are teaching live over something like Google Meet or Zoom. But of course, if you are teaching in an asynchronous way, using something like, let's say, Google Classroom or Canvas, Moodle, one of those platforms, or maybe you're even just emailing students back and forth, right? There's a lot of different ways that you could teach asynchronously where you are not there face-to-face with your students, but you're kind of ping-ponging back and forth, right? You might paste an assignment or post an assignment somewhere, and then your students would read it or do the activity, and then you check it later. So in order to teach in that method, you're going to definitely want to assign homework. And as I mentioned, you can assign reading on any either level of our plan, standard or plus. And then if you want to use the plus plan, that allows you to assign all of these interactive tasks as well. So I showed you the warm up within this task player. Let me just click back in real quick. This read and listen activity, you could assign on standard or plus plan, for example. So it's a reading activity, and then you can click play. The student can listen to the audio, but they just click I'm finished. So that kind of task can be assigned on any level of our plan. And then all of these other more interactive ones can be assigned if you're on the plus plan. So basically you get that homework suite and the ability to provide feedback and stuff like that to your students. So let's go ahead and actually show how you can assign homework to your students. Now, of course, if you're teaching live, you may want to assign homework to your students as well. You might say like, hey guys, every Friday at 4 p.m. you're going to have homework. And so you might want to, after your class, you then go ahead and assign the tasks. Another way people tend to assign homework is maybe at the beginning of the semester, the teacher wants to assign everything, basically. So every Friday at 4, a new assignment is going to become available. And so you can schedule assignments to become available to your students. That's one option as well. So whether you want to kind of assign homework in reaction to how your lesson went, you can do that and make assignments available immediately if you want, or you can kind of pre-schedule things. That's also an option. So in order to assign homework, you need to have a class on ESL Library. So I'm going to go ahead and go to class prep. I'm going to go to my classes. And this class prep menu, we already saw it once when we were talking about those my likes or even organizing lessons into folders. So you find all that here. This is where you manage all of your class stuff. So my classes is where we're going to go to create a new class. So in order to assign homework, there's basically 3 steps. You need to create a class, invite your students to that class, and then you can just go ahead and assign the homework. And obviously moving forward, once you have an existing class, it's quite easy to assign tasks. So I'm here in my personal account. And so I have 3 existing classes already. I want to create a new class, so I'm going to go ahead and click on new class. And I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it What ESL 2020 class. And let's see. Give it a little description, and this is something that's just for me. My students can't see it, so if I want to give it like a level description or something, I can as well. And I am going to make it this nice little teal color here and click save. All right, so I've created my class, but it's sort of shouting at me a little bit. It's like, hey, there are no students in this class, so I need to add some. I can go ahead and just click add students. Now, if I have another ESL library class already, I can just go ahead and add an existing student. And to do that, I just click the check mark next to the student name, click save, and that student is now in my class. That's very easy. Now, if I want to invite new students, which is what many teachers are going to be doing, I can either invite them with an email or with a class code. I prefer to invite my students with this class code. The reason is, sometimes emails go to spam, and when you're working with non-native speakers and you're not there to kind of look at their email and help them out with that, it can get a little hairy. So I just prefer to invite them with a code if I can. So I'm going to click on invite students with a code. Each teacher account, by the way, comes with 100 student licenses. So you can have up to 100 students connected to your class. And as I mentioned before, it's free for your students to be part of your class. All right, so if I'm teaching online live, I probably want to go ahead and click to view full screen. And I would then talk my students through how they can register. So I'm going to have them go to esllibrary.com/students with an S. They're going to click on this sign up button. They're going to go through a very simple sign up process, fill out the forms there, and then this class code I need to make note of because everyone's going to forget what this class code is. You only need the class code one time to get your students connected, or your students need this one time to get connected to your class. But if you're walking them through it live, just keep that on hand because they'll need it right at the very end of the sign up process. And after that, they don't need it anymore. All right. If I'm teaching asynchronously, then I might just take a screenshot, which is like a picture of your screen here, and you can go ahead and post that to your Google Classroom or post it to your Canvas, whatever. And that'll help your students. The only reason I prefer a screenshot is they can see what this button looks like, which helps them a little bit. But of course, you can just copy paste the link and copy paste the class code and just post that and say, hey guys, go to this link, sign up and use this code. All right. So let's say that we have connected our students somehow. So we've created our class, we've invited the students, and now we're going to go ahead and assign the homework. By the way, I can hear some of you thinking like, my students are extremely low literacy level, or they have very low digital literacy. So in that case, you can actually just sign up your students yourself. I like to encourage teachers to have students sign themselves up with assistance because it's authentic English practice, and it's also authentic digital literacy practice for your students as well. So it can be time consuming to have your students sign themselves up. It's certainly, depending on the number of students you have, it can be a little slower than if the teacher just does it themselves. However, I feel like it's really, really useful English practice for them. But of course, you can just go to that link yourself and create accounts for your students that way as well. Basically, just pretend to be them, create the account, and then give them their username and password. So I'll show you what that process looks like. But for now, let's just practice assigning some homework. So I'm going to go back to ESL Library here. And I am going to click into a lesson that I'd like to assign. And let's go ahead and assign one of our everyday dialogues here. I'm going to click into that. And let's go ahead and assign going to the gym. Why not? So to assign homework, it does have to be one of the digital activities, and you'll know it because if it's not digital, you won't see the assignment manager there. So I'm going to go ahead and assign a digital task and click Assignment Manager. I can assign this to either individual students if I want to, or to a full class. If I'm assigning to individual students, that could be across any of my classes. I just click their name and then click continue, and then it'll be assigned to them, or click however many students I want. And you can click here to see who you have selected if you have a bunch of students in your list. But I'm going to go ahead and just show how you can assign to a full class. I think that's a little more typical. So if you click on class, then you can go ahead and select which class to assign to. So I'm going to assign this everyday dialogue to my conversation class and click continue. And by default, it's going to select all of the students in my class, but I could choose just, maybe I only want to choose the beginner students in my class. I could do that as well. So I can select individual students if I need to, or small subsets. And then I'm going to go ahead and click continue. I'm just going to go with the whole class at this point. All right. Now, at this point, I'm looking at all the different tasks that are available. So there are 7 tasks that I could assign. If I want to assign all tasks in this lesson, I just select all. And then I mentioned that you could have assignments become available on specific dates and kind of roll out the assignments. So if at the beginning of a semester, for example, you want, let's say this entire lesson I want to assign, and it's going to become available next Friday at 4 o'clock. So in that case, I could set a start date right here. And this is setting the same start date for each task, for all the tasks. If I want to set a start date for some reason to make them become available at different times or different days, maybe Monday the first task is available and Tuesday the next one, whatever, you can set individual start dates as well right here. So this is when it becomes available to your students. If you don't want to set a start date, you don't have to, and it'll become available immediately. So it really just depends on your teaching style. Okay, I actually do not want to assign all of these tasks because maybe we're going to do the warm-up and some of this in class together. So I'm actually going to assign Vocab Preview A, the Story Scramble, and let's do the comprehension questions as well. And I could set a start date, but I don't want to. I am going to let it become available immediately, but I am going to set a due date, and I have to set a due date. In fact, I want them all to be due at the exact same date and time, so I'm going to just use this bulk due date setter up here. And let's have them due next Wednesday, and I'm going to pick a time. Let's have it due at 9 p.m. Why not? And I can click save. So now I can see that all those due dates have been set. I could, again, adjust the individual task times if I wanted to, or due times right here. But I'm going to go ahead and I can see 3 out of 7 tasks are ready to be assigned, and I'm going to do that by clicking the Assign button. All right, now if I happen to be using Google Classroom, we do have a kind of basic level integration at this point with Google Classroom. So you can click on this little green icon here and it'll go ahead and post the assignment to Google Classroom. We have more integration that will be coming with Google Classroom and more integration that's going to be coming with other platforms as well. So if you're using Canvas or Moodle Blackboard, stay tuned. But for now, if you happen to be using Google Classroom, go ahead and click on that green link. If you are not using Google Classroom, or if you just don't even want to bother with that, it's really easy to post these assignments anyway. Just go ahead and post the link esllibrary.com/students with an S, and your students can click on that link and they can log into their account and start doing any of the tasks that you've assigned right there. So your students are only going to see what you have assigned, and they only ever need to know that one link, esllibrary.com/students. So it's pretty easy even without these integrations. All right, so I've assigned this homework. I'm just going to go ahead and click OK. And then let's actually take a look at what this looks like from the student side. Okay, so here I am in Student World. I'm here at esllibrary.com/students. Now, if I was signing up for the very first time, we said you could invite students with that code. I would go up here to the top right corner and click on this Sign Up button. And I'll show you really quickly what that looks like, just so that you know. And if you were to sign up your students for them, basically on their behalf, you would do that here as well. But as you can see, we tried to keep it pretty simple. What is your name? And so they can type in their first name. Let's go with Yumi Bear and click Next. It'll auto-generate a username for them, but they can edit this if they'd like to. So if I want to be Yumi882, I can, or if I want to be Super Yumi, I can, whatever. Click Next. I can create a password. Now, if you are creating these accounts for your students, I would suggest just creating one generic password for everyone, and then afterward, they can go ahead and log into their account and change that password. Or of course, your students, if they're creating their account, can just set their own, that's no problem. So I'm just gonna go ahead and make sure this looks right. It does, and click Next. And then I can add an email address if I want to. I do not have to. I'm gonna say no right now. And then I just have to agree that I'm 13 or older, or I have guardian permission to use the site. Choose an avatar, cute little icon to identify myself there, and click Next. All right, so now I have my username, and this is where you need that class code that one time. So it says, are you ready to start learning and join a class? So here I'm going to click on that. I'm going to enter my class code. I don't remember what it is, so I'm not going to put that in right now. But if you happen to have multiple teachers at the school and the student is in multiple classes, they don't have to go through this sign up process each time. They can just go to login and then click into their name and click join a class, and it'll take them automatically to this page. So this process is only for the first time they get connected to any class. All right, I'm going to log out of Yumi here and log in as one of my students that's already connected to one of my classes. So I'm going to log in as Kaylee. And by the way, if they have a Google account or Clever, they can just log in one click right here on the right-hand side, but I'm going to just show this login right here, since that's a little more general. All right, and here we are. So this, all I did as a student was I went to esllibrary.com/students and logged into my account, and now I'm here at my student dashboard. So here I can see that I have, oh, it looks like I have a late assignment here that I need to do that's been assigned to me as an individual. And then also I have some assignments for my classes that are due in 5 days and 6 days. And these are both new assignments, so they've got this little bell icon here. All of my previous assignments are hiding here under completed, so I could go and revisit past assignments if I want to. But I'm going to go ahead and click into this going to the gym lesson that my teacher just assigned, Tammy, for my conversation class. Okay, so here I have my tasks that I can do. I'm going to go ahead and click into the story scramble. because we haven't seen one of those yet. All right. And this is a fairly challenging task type. They have to put a dialogue into the correct order, which is a little bit of a challenge. Hopefully they've already read this. Maybe the teacher already assigned this dialogue, or you've already, done this dialogue in class. But I have not done it, so I'm just going to go ahead and guess. But I see the word hi, so I'm going to hope that that's first. And then I'm not a very motivated student, so I'm just going to click that I'm finished. Okay, I got pretty lucky. These show up in a randomized order each time, by the way. So I got 3 out of 6 correct. Because it's difficult, I have 2 more tries before any kind of score is recorded. Do I want to keep trying or submit? I'm going to go ahead and retry. Why not? Okay, so it's showing me what is correct. Let's see. It's all yours. Let me know. Just let me towel it off for you. I don't know. Maybe thanks a lot. Okay, let's click I'm finished. Oh, okay, so that was quite lucky. I got 6 out of 6 and I only took 2 tries. Probably my best ever. So Watisal, you are good luck. I'm going to go ahead and click to review my answers, but just like the teacher could, I could try again and that'll completely reset all of my answers. So I'm going to review my answers, and of course I got them all correct in this case, but if I had any errors, it would show me that it was marked red and then also tell me what the correct position should have been. So it's worth noting and worth remembering that your students can see after the first score is recorded, they can see what the correct answers are. Let's go try just one more of these activities in my homework here. And I am going to click into this comprehension task. So let's do that. All right. Oh, this one is not multiple choice. Interesting. Okay, so what are the speakers mainly discussing? So the comprehension tasks vary. Sometimes they have a reference that they can view. Well, they always have a reference they can view. Sometimes it's a dialogue and sometimes it's a written conversation right there. So what are the speakers mainly discussing? I don't know. I think it's something about they are discussing a gym bike. I'm not sure. So anyway, I can go through here and enter my answers. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Obviously, these are very good responses. I can view the reference each time here if I have questions and I'm not sure. And then I'm going to go ahead and go to the next one. So I can review my answers before I submit them. This is sort of an open response type. Sometimes it's multiple choice or whatever. And I like all of those answers, so I'm going to submit them to my teacher. And of course, for an open response type of question, there is no score that's going to be given back to your students, but you can leave feedback for them. So I'm going to go back to my assignments. And I want to just point out that once the students complete the task right here, they can actually retry if they want to, and they can see their score right here. Now, I want to just go ahead. I'm going to retry this activity, even though I got a 6 out of 6, but I just want to show you something very quickly about this. Oops. Let's retry. Okay, so I got 0 out of 6 on the first one. Let's just mix these up and go with high because we know that was correct. All right. Okay, so I'm going to submit that with 2 out of 6. And I just want to show you what it looks like if they get multiple scores on a task. Let's go back to those assignments here. So here on this main page of the student dashboard, the student can retry. They can see their first score right here, but of course we know that we just did that story scramble twice and got 2 different scores. So here I can see I spent 56 seconds on the first attempt, and of course this task has been completed. If I click into this link right here of the first score, if I have multiple attempts at a task, I can see it right here in the drop-down menu. So I can see how I did on my first attempt, how long I spent, and even the exact minute that I completed that task, and of course all the details there. And if I click on to attempt 2, I get that same information as well. So I can see all of that, how long I spent, and the fact that I did this, 3 minutes later. So let's go ahead. All of this feedback is available in real time to the student, but it's also available for the teacher as well. So we'll hop back over to Teacherland, and let's pretend that it has been a couple of days since I've assigned this, and class is coming up, and I would like to know how many of my students have actually done the homework, and how might class be today, right? I'm trying to get a little insight. So in order to see where your students are at, their progress, and how they're doing, you can go into that kind of class management area up here and go back into the class where the task was assigned. Or if it had been assigned to individuals, you can look within each individual down here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and click into that conversation class. Let's see how class is going to be today. All right, so I'm going to click on the assignments tab over here on the right and see how they're doing on that going to the gym lesson. So I can see right here, right off the bat, that 0 out of 2 students have completed the full lesson. So that already gives me a little concern, given that class is coming up. But I want to view a little bit more detail. Maybe they've done some of those tasks, or I could get a little more insight. And so here I can see that for the story scramble task, oh, it does look like 1 out of 2 students have done this task, and same with the comprehension. So let's see about that story scramble. Let's get even more details here by clicking on view. All right, so here I can see that Kaylee has in fact completed this task. She got a 6 out of 6, which is great. She spent 56 seconds on it, which seems a little fast for that kind of challenging task, but okay. And if I want more details, I can click into view here. And I can also see that Jane hasn't even opened the task, so I might want to send him a little email reminder or something like that. But let's see how Kaylee did. I'm curious about her results here. I know she got everything right, but she completed this at 8:55, and then it looks like, because I can see this drop-down menu, she had multiple attempts. So I'm going to click on attempt number 2, and I can see that her score went down, which is a little confusing. She spent even less time on it, and she only did it 3 minutes later, so I don't think she probably did a lot of serious studying in between. So if I scroll down to the very bottom, I have the opportunity to leave some general feedback to my student. And the way you leave feedback varies from task type to task type. But in this case, it's just general, and I could say like, what happened, Kaylee? Your score went down. And then save that comment. All right. And if we want to look at the next task, which was that kind of open-ended task, I just clicked over to the next task. It's open-ended questions, and I can click to assess over here. So not just view her results, but I know that she wasn't scored. So if I want to, I can actually assess. And again, I'm seeing she spent only 1 minute and 4 seconds. So I'm not sure exactly how hard she's working here. So on this kind of task type, I can see that I have the opportunity, instead of that general feedback, to kind of leave like qualitative, or let's see, she's meeting expectations, for example, and I can give feedback here. So what are the speakers mainly discussing? They are discussing a gym bike. And the suggested answer from ESL Library is they are discussing the amenities of the gym they are at. So close, but not quite right. And so I can go ahead and do that for any or all of those that I want to and submit that feedback. Okay, so now if we look back on the student side for Kaylee, I'm going to refresh her page real quick. So back on Kaylee's student dashboard, now she can see she's got some feedback from her teacher on the story scramble, and also that it has been assessed. And so she can see that with this little pencil icon. So if she clicks in to, let's say, this assessed activity right here, she can see her teacher's feedback right there highlighted in green, but teacher didn't give feedback on anything else, it looks like. So that's kind of cool that that's all available in real time. It makes that asynchronous teaching nice and smooth and quick. And we have a lot of feedback features that are going to be coming. This is sort of our first go at doing this kind of feedback. All right, so let me go back to the My Classes tab. I wanted to also just point out that you can, this is sort of, again, another very initial stage kind of thing, but you can also export student results. So if at the end of the semester you want to export the results to a CSV file and edit it within like Microsoft Excel or something like that, you have some options to do that using this feature. But we really, in 2021, are going to be focusing more on making nicer results and reporting features for teachers. So that is coming. All right. With the last couple of minutes that we have here, I want to just very quickly show you our flashcard player because it is very cool. I'm going to search, oops, hide this, move this guy down here. I'm going to search for our Ramadan lesson. I use that search tool in the top right corner there. Now, you can assign flashcards using, well, the assignment manager, but I'll just show you it using the flashcard player right here. Some of our lessons, and we're adding more and more, have something called a picture dictionary flashcard set. And so you can assign this to your students. It's pre-made flashcards for a specific lesson. So within our Ramadan lesson, you can assign this so that your students can listen to audio. There's an audio component here. They can click on the image and see what the word is. And if they click on the word, it'll make the word larger. So this is a pretty simplistic flashcard player at this point. We have more that'll be coming, but it's still nice and clean and easy for the student to use. So these pre-made flashcard sets already exist within many of the lessons and can be assigned. You as the teacher can also create custom flashcard sets. And so let me show you how you can do that very quickly. If you go to class prep, let me go back actually to our main page. You're going to want to go to materials, flashcards. And as I mentioned at the very beginning, there are like 3,000 flashcards on the site. So you could browse through all 3,000 of them if you want to. And they're all editable. In the words on the flashcards are editable when you create custom sets. So, you know, if you don't find something that you need within the flashcards, you can change the language. And if that isn't enough, you still need a different image, write into us, hello@esllibrary.com, and request it. I just wanted to point out that there is this digital literacy set right here. And so it's obviously quite relevant right now. So if you want to teach language on video conferencing, for example, we have language like camera on, camera off, mute, things like that. But if I want to create a custom set for my students, maybe I want to do something on staying healthy, I'm going to just search for like wash your hands, for example. It's pulling up any lessons or flashcards or blog posts or whatever as it finds them. But wash your hands is pulling up my flashcard right here. So it looks like it's part of our prevention category. And so if I click on this flashcard, it's going to take me to where it lives. So I want to, you know, it's flu season. I want to teach my students how to be healthy right now. I'm going to go ahead and select all of these. And as I select or deselect these, they're creating this list here on the left-hand side. I think I'd like to add a couple more flashcards for my students to learn. So let's choose these related categories here and choose illness and injury. And I'm going to just add a few flashcards right here. Things that might be relevant right now to flu season. And let's go ahead and go with this list. So I have 16 cards right here. I'm going to go ahead, since I'm creating a custom set, and click Manage. So right now it's showing it's an unsaved set. And I've done a lot of work finding these flashcards, but I'd like to just make sure the language matches what I want my students to learn. So for example, in my area, we don't tend to say cover your cough. We tend to say more like cover your mouth. And so I can change that. Maybe I want to simplify the language here and change drink lots of fluids to drink water. I can do that. Or I can put different languages in here, whatever. Let's move some of these around. Let's put cough right here, or let's see. Yeah, let's go with cough. Perfect. And let's move sneeze up as well. Okay, great. So I love this set that I have right here. Now I'm going to go ahead and click Save. And I can either create a new flashcard set or add it to an existing flashcard set that I have. It's not going to fit into like ocean creatures or anything that I already have. So I'm going to create a new flashcard set and just call it Health and Prevention. And save it to a new flashcard set. All right, so now I have that title right there. I know that it's been saved. Now, if I want, I could edit printer settings down here. And so, you know, I could put image only. I could put image and text. I can make it back to back, text only. I can make it a basic literacy font, black and white, 16 images on a page, tons of different options that you can manipulate. And of course, you can use this for like a memory game when you're playing in class together, or maybe you want to just do like some kind of a game where you have 4 pictures and the students say which one is their favorite. So there's a lot you can do. When you click print, it's not actually printing it to your printer right now. It's creating a digital PDF that you could display on your screen if you wanted to. Or you could download that and email it to your students, or of course you can just print it. That's another option. But let's pretend that I'm going to use this in a future class over Zoom. I'm going to go, let's say it's the next day, I need to find my flashcard set. I'm going to go to class prep, my flashcard sets, and I want to be teaching them new vocabulary, or let's say we're reviewing vocabulary over Zoom. So I'm going to go to my health and prevention set and click on launch. So here, now by default, it is showing an image first. So I can ask my students, okay guys, we've already studied this vocabulary before, so what do you need to do to be healthy? And because they are my students, they know that you need to cover your mouth. Yes. So all those edits that I made, it was cover your cough or something before. Now my students are learning this language that we taught here, and I can click on the image, or sorry, click on the word and it'll make it a little bit larger. If I click on the word, it makes it smaller back to this view. And if I click on the image, it'll bring that back. So I can go to the next one. Okay, great job, guys. What do you need to do to be healthy? You need to drink water. Okay, so I can see those changes there. Now, if I want to, I can make some changes to this presentation. So I'm going to go up to this hamburger menu here on the left-hand side. That's those 3 lines there. Whenever you see like 3 dots or 3 lines, you should always click on them because there's always good stuff hiding there, just as a general tip. Tip you should tell your students as well if they're newer to digital literacy. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click on settings here. And let's say I want to be eliciting, I want them to recognize the vocabulary first and then have the image come up. So I can change it so that it's text only. And let's also make it this basic literacy font. Why not? Okay, so now if I were to click to the next flashcard, it's going to show me the text first. So I can say, hey guys, what does this say? And they could shout it out over Zoom. Yeah, sneeze, that's right. Do any of you have a camera? Can you show me what sneeze is? And so, you know, if they've got a smartphone or whatever, they can turn it around and they can mime it, or if they've got a camera on their laptop or whatever, they can do that as well. So that's an option. I can say, okay, I'm going to click on the text now. Yeah, you guys totally got that. Sneeze. Great job. Now, let's say I'm using this for my beginning class and we're studying present progressive, but I'm also using this set on being healthy with my advanced students. And so we're doing a different grammar point. I can edit this set just for this one presentation. So maybe I want to go up to this hamburger menu, my presentation, and I'm going to edit. And this is making changes just for this presentation. So I might change this to sneezing and drinking water and virusing. No, I'm going to click done there. Minimize this. So now I can go and say, okay, guys, what does this say? Sneezing. Can you show me what sneezing is? What's sneezing? Okay, yeah, you got that. Let's make a sentence. What is he doing? He is sneezing. Okay, good job. So there's lots of different ways you can manipulate this. We even will use these flashcards for our business meetings, like our company-wide meetings. And so we put questions here instead. So that's another option too. If you're working with higher level students, you might put a content-based question using these flashcards. So there's a lot of ways that you can use them. We have more coming, and eventually, hopefully within the next couple of months, you'll be able to assign these custom sets as homework for your students as well. At the moment, it's best for just live teaching face-to-face, but still quite a lot you can do with them. So I believe that is the whirlwind tour of the site. I know there was a lot of information. There's just a lot of content on the site. Let me see if there are any questions. And also, as a reminder, we will be at the ESL Library booth for the exhibitor hour, the exhibitor hall coming up at 12:30. Lei, do we have any questions here?
Nope, no questions yet.
Awesome.
If anyone has any, they can type it up on the chat.
Okay.
And I'm just going to post our, exhibit link on the chat.
Oh, perfect. Well. Thanks. All right. While questions are being thought of, let me just remind you one last time that if you go to esllibrary.com/giveaways with an S, you can enter to win a 6-month plus plan subscription, and everyone who does not win will get 1 month access to the site to kind of play around and explore everything and see if it adds value to your classroom. So that's esllibrary.com/giveaways, and I'm sure Lei probably has that in the chat. All right. So let's check on questions, and if not, I will go ahead and wrap this up here, and we will be hanging out in the exhibit hall area. Sounds like maybe, so it's always weird doing the teacher pause here over virtual when you can't see anyone. Let's see, chat, pop over to chat. Okay, I think we're looking okay here. So I am going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. Say thank you everyone for everything that you're doing for students around the US right now. It's just teachers are rocking it. Teachers are carrying so much right now. And thank you for taking time to do this professional development day. So important. Yes, thank you everyone for joining. Really appreciate it. Enjoy the conference, guys.
Yeah, so thank you, Tammy and Lei. I really appreciate the opportunity to learn a little bit about some really cool resources you have here. These seem like they would apply to quite a few of us across different contexts. So thank you for that. There is going to be an exhibitor hall this afternoon. Just in a little bit, it will be starting. So you are welcome to join over in there.